steadily growing as a hub for innovation and development. Ladies and gentlemen, we are grateful to Nssa for choosing Masvingo as the venue for this year's Occupational Safety and Hygiene Engineers Workshop. This workshop is a timely and important initiative, and we are confident that it will provide a platform for learning, collaboration, and the exchange of ideas that will benefit all sectors of industry, especially those that are vital to the economic progress of this region. My province is aware of the importance of the occupational safety and health in fostering sustainable development. As a province, we face unique challenges related to the safety of workers, particularly in industries such as mining, agriculture, and manufacturing. It is in this regard that the work you do as engineers and OSH professionals is invaluable. Your expertise and commitment to safeguarding the health and safety of workers are central to creating a productive and secure working environment for all. The theme, occupational safety, health, technology, and the future of work, is relevant in today's ever-evolving industrial landscape. As technology continues to shape the future of work, it is crucial that we embrace these advancements to create safer and more efficient workplaces. I hope that during this workshop, you will explore the latest technological innovations and how they can be harnessed to improve occupational safety and health standards in our industries. Masvingo is also home to some remarkable engineering and industrial facilities. One such example is the power generation plant located at Mtilikwe Dam, which recently added 5 megawatts to the national grid. We are excited that some of you will have the opportunity to visit this facility, and I hope you will engage with the engineers and staff there to discuss best practices and new ideas that can help us move forward in terms of energy and industrial development. Green energy is the way to go. Human capital development, particularly in the fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, is crucial for the progress and prosperity of our province. With institutions such as Great Zimbabwe University, Reformed Church University, Masvingo Polytechnic, Teachers College, vocational colleges, and numerous schools, our province is uniquely positioned to cultivate a skilled workforce. It is imperative that we move away from being a mere supplier of talent to other provinces and countries. Instead, we must challenge our graduates to launch innovative startups right here in Masvingo. The provincial leadership is fully committed to supporting these initiatives, providing the necessary assistance and resources to foster a vibrant entrepreneurial environment. By investing in STEM education and fostering innovation, we can empower our youth and ensure sustainable growth for our province. Let me remind everyone here to refocus and double our efforts towards achieving Vision 2030. We are all representatives of the government tasked with a mandate from the ruling party ZANU-PF under the astute leadership of His Excellency, the President Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa. It is our responsibility to diligently work towards the full implementation of the resolutions from the 2024 ZANU-PF Annual Conference, People's Conference, as the party holds supremacy over the government. We must continually seek collaboration and guidance from our party leaders. Remember, nyika inovakwa, inotongwa, igotungamirirwa nevene vayo. The nation is built by its own people. Let's work together to bring our vision to fruition. The Second Republic's Vision 2030 challenges our province to achieve a $8 billion economy by the year 2030, underscoring the urgent need for robust public and private partnerships to intensify investment initiatives. The saying, "Nyika inovakwa nevene vayo," resonates deeply, reminding us that with our rich resources endowments, including an abundance of minerals, human capital, and notably water, we are well equipped to realize this vision. With over 54% of the nation's water impounded in dams across our province, the opportunity for growth and development is immense. We must actively encourage investment within our borders, and while we welcome all forms of investment, including foreign direct investment, we have also created a favorable environment for enterprise development that fosters innovation and sustainability. Together, let us continue to build a prosperous future for our province, ensuring that we leverage our natural assets to their fullest potential. Visitors to Masvingo province are warmly invited to experience the unparalleled hospitality that our region has to offer. From savoring our delicious local cuisine to exploring renewed tourism, sites such as the Great Zimbabwe Monument, there is so much to enjoy. Thrill seekers and nature lovers can indulge in scenic boat cruise on Lake Mtilikwe and Lake Tugwimkoz, where the stunning scenery and tranquil waters create the perfect backdrop for relaxation and adventure alike. We strive to ensure that each visitor lives with unforgettable memories of their time in Masvingo province, enriched by the warmth of our people and the beauty of our landscape. Discover the charm and richness of our province and let the experience linger long after your visit. As I conclude, I would like to take this opportunity to encourage all of you to network, share knowledges, and learn from each other's experiences. This workshop is an excellent opportunity to deepen your understanding of OSH practices, and I am confident that the insights you gain here will have a lasting impact on your work and the industry you represent. On behalf of the people of Masvingo province, I wish you a successful, productive, and enriching deliberations. Once again, welcome to Masvingo. I thank you, Siyabonga Tinotenda.
Let's give him a round of applause again. Indeed, Honorable Minister, with all our dams overspilling and our Great Zimbabwe monuments, our Gonare show, we are going to surpass the $8 billion economy. Already, as I have indicated, our per capita GDP is around 2,850, which means we are moving in the right direction at the right pace. Without much ado, shall I call upon Comrade Vusani to introduce our next guest speaker. Thank you.
Good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen. I have the distinguished honor to introduce to you our Honorable Minister of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare, who is a former ZIMTA National Treasurer. He's also a former ZIMSEC board member. And I'm proud to say he's a renowned farmer in Matbel in South Province. At the same time, he's the constituency of Matobo MP. I would like to say that as a member of parliament, he has developed new things and new ideas in that province, which have made that province recognizable from what it was previously. He was once Deputy Minister of Primary and Secondary Education, and before he came to this Ministry of Public Service, he was Minister of Energy and Power Development. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to introduce to you our Minister of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare, Honorable Edgar Moyo. Let's all stand and give him an applause.
Thank you very much. We may take our seats. The Director of Ceremonies, the Minister of State for Provincial Affairs and Devolution, Masvingo Province, Honorable Ezra Chadzamira, Chairman of the Public Service Commission, represented here by Mrs. B. Musana, the Permanent Secretary for Masvingo Provincial Affairs and Devolution is represented, the Permanent Secretary for the Ministry of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare, Mr. Simon Masanga, represented here by Mr. Clemens Vusani, Nssa Board Chairman, Dr. Emmanuel Fundira, Nssa Board members here present, Zimbabwe Occupational Safety and Health Council members here present, General Manager of Nssa, Dr. Charles Shava, Acting Director of OSH Nssa, Dr. Betty, I don't want to try the surname, esteemed engineers, OSH professionals, and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed an honor to stand among Zimbabwe's brightest minds at this pivotal engineers workshop, united under the visionary theme, and I quote, Occupational Safety and Health, Technology and the Future of Work, close quote. This theme does more than guide our discussions today. It echoes the heartbeat of our national aspirations. As a nation, we are committed to fostering fair labor practices, advancing social justice, and elevating labor productivity through robust social protection. These are not just policy goals, they are the pillars of a thriving, equitable Zimbabwe, where every worker's dignity and safety are non-negotiable. As engineers, you are the architects of progress, from the highways connecting Harare to Bulawayo, to the renewable energy plants powering our communities. Our ingenuity builds Zimbabwe's tomorrow. But with this power comes an ethical imperative, which is no innovation, no infrastructure, no industrial leap is truly successful if it comes at the cost of human lives, health, or dignity. In Zimbabwe, as we strive towards achieving Vision 2030 and building a robust industrialized economy, the importance of a safe and healthy workforce cannot be overstated. As engineers, you are the custodians of this vision. From the precision of your designs to the innovation in your tools, you hold the power to harmonize technological progress with human well-being. The fourth industrial revolution, with its artificial intelligence, robotics, and smart systems, is not a distant concept for Zimbabwe. It is here and it is ours to shape. Imagine a future where Internet of Things sensors predict machinery failures before they endanger lives, where virtual reality trains miners in hazard-free environments, and where artificial intelligence-driven analytics transform NSA's safety compliance into seamless, proactive shield for workers. This is the future we are called to build. Distinguished colleagues, as engineers, you are not merely technical experts, you are guardians of public safety and environmental sustainability. In Zimbabwe, where we are rapidly developing our infrastructure and industrial base, this responsibility is magnified. Our work directly impacts the safety and well-being of our communities and the preservation of our natural resources. Our commitment to safety and health must transcend mere compliance with regulations. It must be ingrained in our professional ethos. This means a proactive approach to risk management, moving beyond reactive measures by anticipating potential hazards at every stage of a project, from design and construction to operation and maintenance. In the Zimbabwean context, this includes considering unique challenges like the impact of climate change on infrastructure integrity and the specific risks associated with the mining and agricultural sectors. Moreover, we must engage with the communities affected by our projects, ensuring their concerns are considered, building trust and contributing to sustainable development. Distinguished colleagues, the design phase is where we have the greatest opportunity to prevent accidents and promote occupational health. In Zimbabwe, where we are building the future, we must ensure our designs are inherently safe and sustainable. This involves conducting thorough hazard identification and risk assessments, considering the specific context of Zimbabwean industries and environments, including factors like local materials, climate conditions, and the skills of the workforce. We must select materials that are safe, durable, and environmentally friendly, ensuring proper handling and storage, particularly in industries like mining and construction. Ensuring structural integrity and reliability is vital, guaranteeing our designs can withstand the stresses of their intended use, which is crucial for infrastructure projects resilient to natural disasters and climate change. Designing user-friendly interfaces and economic workplaces minimizes injury and fatigue, which is important in all sectors, especially manufacturing and agriculture. The benefits of integrating safety and health into our design processes are manifold and directly contribute to Zimbabwe's progress. By prioritizing these considerations, we can prevent accidents and reduce injuries, promote occupational health, reduce downtime, enhance productivity, and foster continuous improvement and innovation. Ladies and gentlemen, the International Labour Organization reports that over 2.3 million workers globally lose their lives annually to occupational accidents and diseases. Here in Zimbabwe, 334 injuries with 60 fatalities were reported to Nssa in NSA's 2023 report. These are not just statistics. They are fathers, mothers, and youths whose potential is cut short by preventable tragedies. Therefore, we must cultivate Vision Zero, a free accident consciousness in our design and maintenance. Furthermore, the government of Zimbabwe is working on the OSH bill, underscoring the government's commitment and strong desire to significantly reduce occupational accidents, injuries, and diseases in our industries. The injury statistics over the past 3-year period show a declining trend, but certainly remain highly elevated because of the loss of lives, which is a major concern to government. In this regard, government will do everything possible to push for a new OSH law, the OSH Act, that should help us all as a nation to arrest this needless loss of lives at work, as well as stop the horrendous experiences suffered by injured workers and their families. In addition, my ministry will work closely with social partners to ensure that Convention 187 on the promotional framework on OSH, being an important convention, is ratified by government, thus underscoring government's commitment and strong desire to reduce significantly occupational accidents, injuries and diseases in our industries. Convention 187 recognizes the global magnitude of occupational injuries, diseases, and the need for more action to reduce them. The convention, which resonates with the ILO Constitution, which sets out its objectives as the protection of workers against sickness, diseases, and injury arising out of employment. Esteemed delegates, to further enhance safety and health, we must embrace emerging trends and technologies, particularly those associated with the fourth industrial revolution. These include the fourth industrial revolution, artificial intelligence, and machine learning, Internet of Things, and sensor technologies, and building information modeling. By leveraging these advancements, we can create innovative solutions that promote safety, health, and well-being, ensuring that Zimbabwe's workforce is protected and empowered. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, by aligning our technical expertise with our mandate to safeguard workers, we can reimagine industries where efficiency and safety are twin engines of growth. This is not a theoretical debate, it is a call to action. Over the next 3 days, we will explore how engineers can lead this charge by designing with empathy, implementing with foresight, and advocating for a culture where safety and innovation are inseparable. Together, we will explore how technology can be more than a disruptor. It can be a bridge between ambition and safety, between productivity and protection, and between Zimbabwe's present and its prosperous future. With these words, I declare this Engineers OSH workshop officially open. I thank you, Siyabonga Tatenda.
Thank you, Honorable Minister Moyo, for officially opening this workshop. Shall I call Dr. Charles Shava, Acting General Manager, Nssa, to come and give vote of thanks? Oh, you're just behind me. Thank you.
Good morning once again. Good morning. Thank you. The Honourable Minister of State for Masvingo Provincial Affairs and Devolution, Comrade Ezra Chadzamira, the Minister of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare, Honourable Edgar Moyo, Chairman of the Public Service Commission, represented by Mrs. B. Msana, the Permanent Secretary for Masvingo Provincial Affairs and Devolution, Dr. Pazakavamka, who is represented by Mr. Chingwara, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare, Mr. Simon Masanga, represented here by Mr. Clemens Busani, the Nssa Board Chairman, Dr. Fundira, and the other Nssa Board members here present, the Zimbabwe Occupational Safety and Health Council members who are here present, the executives from Nssa who are here present, the Acting Director for OSH, Nssa, Dr. Nyerere Gona, our esteemed engineers, OSH professionals, distinguished guests, and other observers. Ladies and gentlemen, mine is a very simple task, which is really just to summarize this and to thank all of you for coming to this important event in our calendar as Nssa. It is my great honor and privilege to extend a heartfelt vote of thanks for this momentous occasion, the official opening of our Engineers Conference under the theme Occupational Safety and Health, Technology and the Future of Work. First and foremost, let me express my deepest gratitude to Honorable Edgar Moyo our esteemed Minister of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare for officially opening this workshop. Your presence here assures us that whatever is being discussed here is being recognized and supported at the highest level of government. It is a testament to the government's unwavering commitment to improving occupational safety and health in our workplaces. I would also like to extend our sincere appreciation to Honorable Ezra Chazamira, the Minister of State for Provincial Affairs in Masvingo Province, for the warm welcome, sir, that you have given us and that you have shown by gracing this special occasion. We do appreciate you running possibly the biggest province in the country by both population and by land size. And your time is not so easy to get hold of, but I am happy to say that you have seen it fit to come and grace this occasion. And for us, hosting this event in Masvingo is truly special, and we appreciate the hospitality that you have shown us so far. A special thanks goes to our board. Special thanks to Dr. Emmanuel Anesufundira, our board chairperson, for his insightful introduction remarks and for his continued leadership in steering Nssa towards excellence in workplace health and safety. You, together with your fellow board members, have made all this possible. I also want to give special thanks to our presenters, our speakers, and our facilitators who make this conference a conference that it is. We are incredibly grateful for the time and expertise that you have dedicated to this workshop in preparing, researching, analyzing, and finally being able to come and present here at this conference. With about 15 presenters lined up, we are excited about the valuable insights that will be shared. Your knowledge will in no doubt contribute to our collective goal of enhancing engineering interventions and measures and fostering a culture of workplace safety in all your workplaces. As Nssa, we are a regulator, but we regulate what you do, and we want to make sure that whatever you are doing will need very little regulation because it will be evidence-based. I also want to pass a huge thank you to all our attendees, which include the engineers, ship practitioners, and everybody else who is here. Your presence here underscores the importance of collaboration in ensuring health and safe workplaces. I want to specifically give a lot of gratitude to our Nssa executives and staff members who have made this event possible. These people are the people that make all the preparation that ends up with this momentous day possible. I will specifically also refer to the OSH department. Here I'm referring to Dr. Betty and your team for making this day very possible and truly commendable. Thank you for being able to run this event smoothly. We also want to appreciate the support that we have got from all our government ministries, members of the media, other stakeholders present, including our hosts here at the hotel. Your involvement is crucial in spreading awareness and reinforcing the importance of workplace safety in Zimbabwe. To our logistical teams handling transport, to our logistical teams, the handling of transport, accommodation, and the company visits that are lined up for the practical experience of this event, we acknowledge your efforts in ensuring a seamless experience for our delegates. Lastly, but not least, I would like to appreciate the hospitality and excellent facilities provided for this gathering by our venue hosts at Urban Lifestyle Hotel. At first, when I was told that we are having our engineering conference in Masvingo, the first place that I thought was Great Zimbabwe or maybe Clever's Hotel. But when I was told there is something just on your left when you go to Great Zimbabwe, I said, what is that? And unfortunately or unfortunately, it's my first time to be here, and I'm amazed by what I've seen here. I was still chatting to the board chairman outside. He also looked amazed. I don't know if he meant it, but he also looked very amazed about this place. So we are very happy, Honorable Chadzamira, that you are leading a province that is coming up with this kind of wonderful places that can actually accommodate so many people. As we embark on this insightful journey throughout the workshop, I encourage all delegates to engage actively, share knowledge, collaborate, socialize, and collaborate towards shaping the future of work through technology and safety innovations. Once again, I would like to thank you for your invaluable contributions and for making this workshop a reality. I wish you a productive and enriching workshop. Tatenda siyabonga. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hanzi kuchechi vanoti tinobva mukubwinya tichienda muno kungokubwinya. Tine zvotarongerwa na Dr. Mugaviri for our honorable ministers. So she's coming over here and some other colleagues to hand over the gifts to our honorable ministers. Thank you, Doctor. If you would have a word to say. Okay, she doesn't have any word to say. Thank you for the gifts. Shall I call Engineer Nguve? Like the minister said, I won't dare pronounce the first name. It's very difficult. But shall I call Engineer Nguve, who is going to talk about leadership in shaping the future of operational health and safety. Thank you. Over to you, sir. Let's give him a round of applause. It's okay. Okay, shall I call my honorable ministers, because there is a presentation to be done, to sit over that side.
A round of applause as our ministers take their seats. Thank you so much. Let me take over and introduce Engineer Chia Nguve. So when I got his name, it's Engineer Chia Kakiwe. And I said, Engineer, I'm just going to say Engineer Nguve. Just allow me to ignore the first initials like what was said previously. Engineer Chia Nguve holds a BSc Honours degree in Electrical Engineering from the University of Zimbabwe and an executive MBA from Nssa. He has over 27 years post experience in manufacturing, deep hard rock mining, and mineral processing plants, with 15 years in senior leadership role, charged with overall responsibility in engineering assets care, capital and stay in business projects, and continuous improvements. The main delivery focus has been leading the engineering team towards optimal support to the business strategy. Chia has worked for BICC, Kafka, Dunlop, Zimasco, Ferrochrome, and is currently employed by Unki Mines as the engineering manager. So, team, please kindly help me to welcome Engineer Chia as he comes to do his presentation.
We recognize the presence of esteemed and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, men and women, and all colleagues here present today. My name is Chia Ncube. It's sometimes kind to just call me Chia. My topic today is the role of leadership in shaping the future of occupational safety and health, strategies to prioritize worker safety and well-being. This is our program, tentative program. Depending on temperature and pressure, we'll move a few things around. I would like us to get some insights about leadership from Jack Welch. Jack Welch was the CEO of General Electric for 20 years, from 1980 to 2000. He actually wrote some books, Winning and Straight from the Gut. They are quite very recognizable books in the leadership world. He passed away a few years ago. Of course, he wasn't perfect like all of us. He passed away on his third marriage. Okay, I will request that we play the video.
What is the role of a leader? Well, the first one clearly is to be the chief meeting officer. To let everyone in the place know where you're going, why you're going there, and most importantly, what's in it for them to get there with you. People like to talk about where they're going, why they're going there, but they always leave out the third thing. When you come into a new job and you say, we want to change. Change is great. We got to do it. You forget people hate change. You've got to explain what's in it for them to change with you. So be the chief meeting officer and give meaning to every one of those people that are out there doing that job, so that they understand why you're going, where you're going. And they know what's in it for them. Better job, more pay, more flexibility, maybe nothing, if you can't say nothing. But you gotta understand that's one of them. Another part of a job, your job is to not give all these directives and not be the person getting rid of the clutter. Getting rid of clutter is a huge deal. You can't all of a sudden have bureaucracy. Let's go here, let's go there, then have 20 rules to stop the employees from getting there. You've got to break down all those little silos that occur, all those little bureaucrats who are checking the boxes in some layers, slowing you down. You've got to be the person we always use this analogy of curling. You see it every 4 years in the Olympics with the broom out in front of the thing. You've got to be brooming away the stuff that's in the way. You've got to be the chief bloomer out there to get rid of things so people can act and do things. You've got to have, if you want to be, in my experience, and I've looked at thousands of managers in my lifetime, you've got to have a generosity gene. It's got to be in your body. You've got to love to see people promoted. You can't have a jealous vein where you can't, oh, Joe got promoted and I should have got that job, or Mary got this and Pete should have got it, or whatever. You've got to enjoy people's success. You've got to love people's success. You've got to get in their skin and really be excited as hell for them. You've got to love to give raises. You've got to be turned on giving bonuses. It's got to make you feel great. And not, geez, I gave him a bonus and I didn't get one that big. None of those feelings. You got to just get over them. And if I look at all the leaders I've seen, the best ones I've seen have this generosity gene. Ask yourself, do you have it? Or do you have a little small gene in there that's killing you, and give raises, killing you to see other successes and jealous in your body? You can't have it. Brush it out, clean it out. And then you go to work every day, finally, to really have fun. Are your people having fun? Find all kinds of ways to win. There are small victories all the time, and celebrate every one of them. We found a way to bring a keg in on everything. Find a way to make little victories big victories. And if you get a lot of little victories, you'll get a big victory when you add them all together. But think of the job that way. Work is fun. And your job is to make it fun if you're a leader. Don't be some grinding horse's ass. If you're a bore, slap yourself. Think of the excitement and fun you can have in your job. Make it fun. Be the chief fun officer. So in my view, you've got a huge responsibility, most of you. God gave you a job where you are responsible for people's lives. It's a big deal. You got families you're responsible for. Make it a big success for them. You got one of the luxuries of life to impact people's lives. Grab it, squeeze it, and take advantage of it.
We'll go back to the presentation. Just very quickly, what is the role of leadership in shaping a robust occupational health system? One of the primary roles of leadership is to exert a strategic leadership. A leader must walk, smell, dress, strategy. It's amazing the amount of responsibility you have as a leader and how much people are looking at you. Colleagues in this room are mostly leaders. You must get away from the thinking that you are not visible. Imagine when you were in grade school, how much you were able to mimic the gestures of your teacher after a few weeks. The leader must set clear expectations and get them communicated. By the way, communication is not what you think you are saying, is how much the intended recipient has heard what you are saying. In fact, Steve Covey says, you haven't communicated until the listener repeats to you what you have said to his or her satisfaction. The leader must also provide resourcing. This is a big deal. Resources is about tools, equipment, training, and all other initiatives. Further, the leader must create a culture, and the culture must support strategy. I think that's a basic principle in management. If the culture is strong, it needs to support a certain strategy. If it's weak, it's not good enough to support a strategy. And in that culture, everybody must feel psychologically safe. It's not enough to say people should feel psychological safe. They must feel It's not your decision. They must feel that they are psychologically safe. Further, leaders must provide positive reinforcement, and this is lacking in most organizations. The greatest gift we have about people is that it doesn't necessarily need much to make people happy. A few dollars with no impact on the bottom line of a business means a lot to people. Further, positive reinforcement need not be even cash. Just a simple thank you is enough to change the attitude of an employee. It's all about the humility we have as leaders. We need to be humble and know that we stand for something bigger than ourselves. Leaders must also set objectives and they monitor and they evaluate those objectives. And they own the outcome of that evaluation. You cannot be a leader if you accept only good things. You should have the humility to also take the bad news. Going into the future, we must be data-driven. We must use all the data, and there's a lot of leading indicators in our business which we can collect to enable us to use to make decision-making. All employees must be involved. Everybody must feel being part of a team. And that is dependent on the actions of and the leadership of management and the leaders. Leaders must also be adaptive. We must see, being leaders gives us the gift to see beforehand. We need to use the power of our imagination. We must see trends before they become evident. In fact, that's how great leaders like Elon Musk have thrived. They've seen things. Now he's seeing Mars. 10 years ago, people thought he was mad. Now people are seeing the reality and practicality of it. This is just a summary to show the leadership influence on culture. Leadership influences culture, and the culture drives behaviors which yield results. So for organization, look at your existing culture. What is it like? And then you have to build a pathway towards your desired culture. You need to have the courage to do that. And the three tools we have to use for that purpose is the behavior, what do we say, systems, the way we do things, and symbols. These are non-verbal. And this is very powerful. While I was working in South Africa for about 2 years, there was something very interesting with that plant in Rustenburg. It's the only plant, probably, they don't exist in Zimbabwe, where there was no reserved parking for management. If you're a manager and you come late, you're going to struggle to park. This is because in South Africa there is a lot of power in the unions. Is that right? I'm not sure. But if we say we are equal and we value everybody, we probably need to reflect on such issues. The role of leadership in influencing occupational health and safety using the plan, do, check and act. This is really about the Deming cycle. The Deming cycle is very much known. First of all, we have to define the vision. If you want to understand the word vision, vision is about that issue. If you are married, at 1 a.m. things are very hard. Your wife wakes you up and say, Daddy, where are we going? She is asking for a vision. Okay. So that's a simple definition of vision. It's where you want to go. Define responsibilities, operational strategy, that's part of planning, operational review, that's part of operational review, system operational improvement, that's part of check, feedback loop to drive continuous improvement. So it's all about where you are, where you want to be, feedback to tell you where you are, and that era must drive you to move forward. Okay, at the core of the occupational health system is the leadership commitment. It sits at the center. And surrounding that is our teams, our processes, and our assets. If we speak about our teams, we're talking about our people competence, looking at the right-hand side. If you're talking of process, you're talking about standard operating procedures, really. How do you operate your plants? If you're talking about assets, you're talking about equipment, fit for purpose equipment. At the center of that is the leadership commitment. Leadership is the only attribute which will the overall influence on all the others. It's the leader's responsibility in ensuring that the people are competent. How do you staff your organization with competent people? How do you bring processes which are safe? How do you bring assets which are safe? I think the Honorable Minister spoke about the influence on design, and I think that's very important. A lot of people, they sit, procure equipment, and then they start thinking about it when it's already in the plant. That's too late. You cannot then influence some process, some aspects of design. In my plant, we are very unfortunate because of challenges with design, where we had a 3,000-liter tank actually rupturing. It's full of slurry. The amount of energy there which is released is quite amazing and shocking. More of that later. Okay. Now it's time to play the Menti. Maybe you are familiar with Menti, the Mentometer. I see the network was, I hope you have some data in your phone. You just go menti.com, you put that code, then you tell us your opinion. Question 1, in the organization you work for or interact strongly with, which factor contributes mostly to the safety incidents or poor employee well-being? Those are the choices. I will give the team a minute, then I will change over to the second question. In your industry or the industry you are familiar with, what do you estimate to be the percentage of current jobs which will be replaced by artificial intelligence by 2050? Are we there? First question, hands up those who have got there. We just say menti.com. It's going to ask you for a number, and you put that number which was in the screen. I think it's 85, 86, 41, 24. Yeah. Making progress. I said a minute, 30 seconds ago, so you have 30 seconds left. You just go to the browser, Google or Chrome, then you say menti.com. It's going to ask you for the code. Then you put 85, 86, 41, 24. Show of hands, making progress. Yeah, we're starting to make progress. You see just one question, right? When 80% are done, I'm going to move to the second one. Progress. 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 Those who know mathematics, do we have enough hands to have a normal distribution? Progress. Progress. I'm going to give the rest of the session to do the first question. End of the session, I'm going to switch over. Then you try the second one. You express your opinion. Then I will ask the Nssa colleagues after verification to share the outcome. Okay, we will continue. Right, what is the case for artificial intelligence? Right. According to Jameson reasoning, there is what you call organizational error. Organizational error. There is errors in 3 layers of the business. Organizational, which is very wide, where your baseline risk assessment must happen. Then there are errors at workplace level, where you should have an issue-based risk assessment. Then there are errors at personal or team level, that is at a higher or slum level, depending on the language you use. And those errors, if they align, if they are repeated and significant, one day it's a matter of probability, they will align. Then you have an incidence. That incidence just means it's going through the defenses which you have. Okay. So a study of 27 serious injuries found that at business organizational level, the errors start from maintenance planning, mine planning, and the competency. At workplace level, the errors start from mostly equipment. You see 55%. Whether it's equipment maintenance, equipment design, equipment operation, that's workplace level. Then what are the errors at the individual level? Mistakes. And it's quite exciting to unpack what is a mistake. Human error is either it's intentional or it's non-intentional. If it's non-intentional, either it's a slip, it could be design flaws, or it's a lapse, distraction. It's a mistake due to limited knowledge. Or it becomes intentional. Some people make mistakes intentional, and they are quite significant because of routine or cultural violation. Norm is not to follow rules. By human design, such people are possible and they exist. Exceptional or deviant violation, only one not following the rules. Some people decide to deviate. The speed limit is 120. Why don't I try 150? It happens. Okay. So you can see there 46% from the study are mistakes. 31% are violations. So if you look at human behavior, underlying which you can't see is below the surface are the attitudes. Still below the surface is the motivation. We see mostly the behavior. But when we want to understand people, we actually do the reverse. We start from the behavior because that's what we see. Then we want to look for the motivation and the attitude. From this, that's why most accident reviews are not successful. Because the questioning itself is the other way around. So fundamentally, there are attitudes which we must try and unearth them. Then there are motivations which result in the visible, which is the behavior. Okay, so this gives a strong case for technology. And how do we look at this? We have to go to the hierarchy of controls from the cradle, which means from the start of projects to the grave, when you decommission your mine or decommission your plant or rehabilitate your mine. So the only level where you start being independent of human involvement is the engineering controls. Substitutions, elimination. I'm sure if you were listening carefully, the Honorable Minister really put this very well, actually. We spend most of the time in administrative controls and PPE, but seeing the human errors, you are not going to be successful. So really depending on administrative and PPE is accepting that we have a risk tolerance, and at some stage, if the risk is fatal, we are going to lose lives. So it's a whole hierarchy about decision making. But when you talk about substitution and elimination, these are high-level decisions. That's where leadership comes in. Most of the junior people won't have an influence on a design because it talks about capital. They won't have an influence on the type of process because it talks about operational cost and it talks about lots of other big issues like environmental controls in the country, etc. So it's very important that when we look at these projects, we get senior people involvement at all levels. In fact, a study done in Canada has found that most projects are not successful and they end up with safety risk because of the poor owner involvement. So as the owner of a project, it's not enough to have 10 million and say, can this be done? You have to deputy people who are competent enough to stand for your interest through the value chain. I think this is very significant. Looking at a plant like Unki, what are the issues? And I think this is very important for leadership. And it can be conflicting because we measure total injury frequency rate. A slip and fall is important because it counts negatively in our numbers. Hand injuries are important. But you need to also reflect. As much as we look at those statistics, they are really issues. Do not lose focus of your fatal risk. The probability of occurrence can be very low, but the consequence is very high. What about if it happens? So it takes you to some very important things. If you look at a plant like Unki, isolation of energies. I'm sure engineers are familiar with ISO till EP, and I think for isolation of energies, competence is very important. But we tend to forget other forms of energies like mechanical energy, LHD in a bucket, changing tires, etc., etc. We need to think about that and see ways of how we can automate those issues. Working at heights, the first principle, if you can avoid the task at height, please do. Because there's normally no second chance. The use of body harness, you know about it, but there are also important things about the measurements there. Some people use body harness at measurements of 4 meters. But if you were to actuate that, you still hit the ground. So those are the issues. And we sometimes have this, what about if it happens? Can you still rescue a person or you still lose the person with the body harness having actuated? Lifting operations. Lifting remains significantly very important. Think of the equipment you are using for lifting. Some of the lifting equipment is getting cheap, but we have to think about how does this speak to the integrity of the equipment. I've seen a crane with a boom literally fracturing. And we had a serious occurrence recently in one of our workplaces in Zimbabwe recently. TMM, HME, pedestrian interaction, I'm going to show that at UNC we have ADAS, we have PDS. It helps, but still human behavior is still very important. Surface and underground fire. A fire looks unlikely, but when it happens, you will wish you had taken better controls like fire suppression systems or fire retardant belts, for instance. Transportation of people and materials. If we are passing people to work, remember, for that time, 67 or so people are concentrated on one human being. What is the state of that human? We sometimes don't pay drivers well, but you are mortgaging the life of your 67 people to a grievance affected person. Think about those things as leaders. Molten material, like in smelters, we have a smelter. Better if you have mud guns, right, than closing the holes with your hand. Those are the issues. Noxious gases underground. My colleague engineer spoke about it in one of the presentations, the use of GTIs to see the oxygen concentration related to confined spaces. Equipment safeguarding. So think of fatal risk. It won't happen every day, even if you were to do very little, but when it happens, it changes careers. It changes us spiritually. So we need significant investment on these. These are the technologies we have in a plant like ours, using drones to do some thickness test or some observation. It helps. Automated driver assist systems, it tells you when you are sleeping. It tells you when you are changing lanes badly. It tells you if you are steering in one direction for too long, and it sends a report. Yeah, it has really helped a lot in our setup. We had a bus accident in 2013 or 14, but after that we've had a better experience. PTS, VTS is expensive. If people's behaviors are bad underground, you won't even produce because it's going to stop equipment every second. But at least the equipment will stop before infringing on human beings. Rock movement detections, like on your hanging roof. Satellite tracking. We have Lucilia Port Dam. We track with the satellite any movement. It will report. Technology is available. It will tell you where you are. Smoke detection system on conveyors. Ansul Protect systems on your fire systems, on mobile equipment. Temperature and vibration detection. Right. Something is missing there. But I wanted to show the body, the soul, and the spirit. After the Second World War, the humankind have softened up. People are now getting injured at soul level, which is the mind, willpower, and emotions. That part has been ignored for many years. We used to care about a human being as an injury if blood starts dripping out. But we have to admit, our parents told us we were a weaker generation, now we are the parents. I don't know what's true, but the reality is that mankind is changing. Stress and fatigue, isolation, people are working far off-site, mental health issues, depression, bullying and harassment, gender-based violence at work. Most organizations are not allowing it. Those are the issues. And by the way, I think you know from the CPZ case, any relationship with a person under you in the hierarchy of work is deemed non-consensual. Reflect on that. Okay, we've run out of time. This particular matter is an emerging risk underground, very expensive to tackle. It requires technology, but it's with us. It has been proven that the particles from this particular matter are cancerous, so it's an emerging concern. The future of mining is obviously going to be autonomous, diesel with electrics, robotics replacing humans. We don't know how fast, but it's happening. Technology is exponential. Traditional mining professions will be replaced, reskilling. We should take advantage that it's very difficult to replicate the human perception. That is our strength, so we need to lean towards that. Use of artificial intelligence in plant conditional monitoring, safer mines than ever. Just some reflection. I think as leaders, you can read this, but as leaders, it's a calling, it's a big responsibility. We are going to be unpopular. But you should know that your reward is probably not going to come from mankind, or it's going to come generations in advance. So as you think as a leader, you must know that in the final analysis, it's between you and God. When you meet your maker, you should say, God, it was tough down there, but I tried my best to make mankind better. That's what all of you stand for as leaders. God bless you.
Another round of applause for Engineer Chia. Engineer tells us that as a leader, you haven't communicated until the listener has communicated back what you have said. Are we there, married people? So you haven't communicated. If your wife is still confused, it's your challenge. That's Engineer Chia, it's not me. Well, there are a number of takeaway points from Engineer Chia's presentation. He spoke about, when a leader promises you to take you to Mars, like what Elon Musk is saying, Hans, you should know that you are in safe hands. So when a leader speaks vision, when a leader begins to speak about what they intend to do and communicates it properly to you, this is quite enlightening. I think it's something that as engineers in this place, as professionals in this place, we cherish so much because we know we are leaders within our various workplaces. And as Nssa, we are saying no man should die while they are making profit for another man, is it? At this point in time, I'm just going to call Engineer Mangwa quickly to the podium as he is going to deliver his presentation. There is a question. Okay. Okay.
There were certain terms there which we also want to learn and understand.
Okay.
CDS, EDS, and all that. Don't take it for granted.
Okay.
Try to make it as simple. Can you hear me? It's not wrong.
Okay.
I'm an ecologist myself, and I think if you come to my field and I use some of those names, you will not even understand what I'm talking about.
Yes.
We are non-engineers. I know it's an engineers conference, but we also want to benefit from the discussions. So if you can probably simplify some of the issues and explain some of the technical acronyms you are using, like CBS, PDS, and all that, so that we fully understand and we are together. And besides, can we please have a soft copy for my honorable ministers for all your presentations, so that they can also take what they should be living. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Engineer Chia, anzi manyanya kudzikisa gejo apa nditi. PDCA maakutaura ma technical terms. The soft copies are there. I think Vincent, you can avail the soft copies for all our presentations. Thank you for that, board chairman. Engineer Mangwa, you are advised. I think let's simplify terms as you come to the podium. Engineer Mangwa has got at this point in time. Okay. We may take our seats. Thank you. Engineer Mangwa is the managing consultant for Gimcon Investments Private Limited. He has over 27 years experience in engineering, safety and health and environment management. He is a holder of a master's degree in safety and health, environment and management, master's degree in business administration, quite a number of professions as well. But operationally, Engineer Mangwa is a SADCAS technical assessor for inspection board accreditation systems, IBAS, based on ISO IEC 17020 inspection standard. He is the current chairperson of the SADCAS Regional Advisory Committee for the Inspection Board Accreditation Scheme. Engineer Gilbert Mangwa is an ILO ALAC trainer for evidence-based policy making. Engineer Mangwa worked for Nssa as the Factories and Works Principal Inspector for 19 years. And Engineer Mangwa is not new to most of us. Let me hand over to Engineer Mangwa as he takes us through his presentation.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My presentation topic is inspection as a decision tool to inform statutory maintenance and enhance process improvement. The ISO IEC 17020-2012 inspection standard model. My presentation outline is going to be as follows: the objective, introduction, the conceptual model, definition of terms, inspection as a critical decision-making tool, the benefits of ISO IEC 17020-2012 model, conclusion, and a bibliography. The objective of the presentation is to demonstrate how inspections serve as a decision-making tool and to link inspections to statutory maintenance for process improvement and to identify the benefits of ISO IEC 17020-2012 inspection standard. Arguably, ladies and gentlemen, inspection indeed is a decision-making tool to inform statutory maintenance and enhance process improvement. According to the European Union Agency for Occupational Safety and Health, EU, OSHA, 10 to 15% of occupational fatal accidents are related to maintenance operations. A 2020 international study established that 60% of manufacturers are on reactive maintenance, implying that they only react when an accident has occurred or when failure has occurred. However, experts recommend that between 5 and 15% should be reactive maintenance, and implying that 85, then continual improvement up to 90% should be proactive maintenance. The 5% gap is the inherent residual risk, the generic inherent residual risk likened to the accident causation theory when we admit 2% the act of God. I'm going to take 10 minutes to explain this model, which constitutes about 50% of my presentation. Right. In economic development, there are economic activities which are in value chain networks or processes. As we add value to raw materials, value addition through various processes to have those products which are supported by services. On the other hand, there are stakeholders with clearly defined needs and expectations. And these stakeholders have a vested interest in the material, in the products, in the processes and the services. These stakeholders could be the government departments or government ministries such as the Mines Inspectorate, Factories Inspectorate, Medicines Control Authority of Zimbabwe, Ministry of Industry and Commerce when they do market surveillance, EMA, Nssa, vehicle inspection. These are the inspectors, including the labor inspectors. They are the inspectors. The other stakeholder could be the clients of the raw materials, products, processes, and services. They have a vested interest. They can engage the services of accredited inspection bodies to assist them to implement a technical regulation. The other stakeholders are those on 65 reactive maintenance who are the manufacturers. And these manufacturers have a vested interest, and within their bipartite structures, they have inspection protocols through inspection departments, quality, safety, health, environment, quality, risk. There's another set of stakeholders who are the employees through their structures. They are representatives, ZFC, ZFTU, ZCTU, APEX. They may make complaints and carry out inspections at workplaces, maybe following complaints or being proactive in line with the OSH policy. So basically, the personnel are the inspectors. Let me add another stakeholder before I go into this personnel. The other key stakeholder are the research institutions, professional bodies, non-governmental organizations, just to mention but a few. The personnel are the inspectors. They are required to have certain qualifications which are defined in statutes or defined in standard specifications or prescribed by accreditation bodies. The competence matrix and how do you sustain that competence. If it's clearly defined, it needs to be supported by two major pillars. Pillar number one, the methods of inspection, and the technology on the other hand, which is the equipment that has been talked about, which dovetails very well with the theme of this workshop. Occupational safety and health and technology, the future of work. I'll start with methods. Methods that are supposed to be used should be standard methods, and standard methods are derived from standard specifications or derived from regulations, and if they are derived from regulations, they become regulatory methods suitable for an inspection application. If they are non-standard methods, they should be non-standard method validation evidence that that standard works and is suitable for the inspection application. On the other hand, where we have technology in the context for measurements that are taken as part of the inspection process. These measurements, if they have significant impact on inspection results, they shall have or should have metrological traceability of measurement result, International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation, ILAC, or SADCAS TR09, which is SADCAS policy on metrological traceability of measurement result, or SANA's policy on metrological traceability of measurement result, which is TR25/1. The technology, I must emphasize on that, is this is what aids our VEVIVT, visual inspection, visual examination, or visual testing. It can be dimensional, where we need a digital scale, temperature, dimensional mass, pressure, just to cite a few examples. And this equipment should be calibrated by an accredited calibration laboratory, which is accredited to ISO IC 17025 2017 model. I repeat, all measurements that are taken as part of the inspection process with the significant impact on measurement results shall or should have metrological traceability of that measurement result. I must emphasize that any inspection tool technologies we have been taken through, including artificial intelligence, one, should be suitable for an inspection application. Two, shall be accurate. Three, it must be functional, which brings in the dimension of metrological traceability. These pillars are not sitting in air, they are sitting on a foundation, and this foundation is very robust, so says Taguchi. For any measurement, there must be a declaration on under what conditions was the measurement taken. What was the temperature, the humidity? Was it between temperature -5 and 30? What was the illumination? Was it between 550 lux to 1,000 lux? And this environment is technical. I'll move into the environment administrative, which is that which must remain constant. That is the risks to impartiality such that the inspector is not conflicted. There is no conflict of interest, as like we are talking about impartiality, which is the presence of objectivity and absence of bias. All inspection activities should be audit trailable, like the metrology aspect that I have, to demonstrate the technical integrity of the system implementation. I will not say much about that. Then standards and the regulations. Now it's a hypostatic model, as you can see for yourselves. These are conformity assessment tools for better regulatory outcomes. Conformity assessment tools make that platform for acceptance and rejection, which is the acceptance rejection criterion. I repeat, standards are conformity assessment tools for better regulatory outcomes. So each raw material, each product, process, and service has a particular standard specification
Meat inspection, building inspection, vehicle inspection have different standards, specifications. Similarly with the regulations. So some regulations include standards or it makes reference to standards. For example, I'll give an example. Boilers and pressure vessels shall be manufactured to a British standard or equivalent standard specification approved by the Chief Inspector of Factories. Are we together? Right. Then finally, all these activities require a management system which will be ISO 9001, 14001, 45001, the Food F2000 series, but most importantly, the IMS. Now that brings the dimension that the previous presenters talked about, the PDCA. We plan, we do, we check, and we act. Now, the model is done 10 minutes. That makes life easy. Now I will unbundle the simple. Inspection, basically by definition, is the examination of a product, examination of a process, examination of a service, examination of installation or installation design, and its determination for conformity with specific requirements or professional judgment against general requirements, of which a process constitutes. A process, it's about input and output, but constitutes facilities maintenance, technology, personnel, and personnel. That implies that maintenance is part of a process. I am emphasizing this so that we'll understand later why I'm emphasizing that maintenance is part of the process. Inspection, I'll move on to the next one. Inspection is usually an activity that precedes maintenance, and at times inspection, certification, and testing overlap where they have common characteristics. And the inspection is about matters of quality, quantity, matters of fitness for purpose, safety, and continued compliance. And this also brings into perspective the issue of artificial intelligence. Why do we carry out inspections? Now I'm marrying the two. My objective number two. We carry out inspections for probably 5-6 reasons. To make a decision, protect the public or persons, protect property, risk management, getting information about an item to be inspected, for hazard identification and risk assessment, for total quality management, for legal compliance, for business development. So basically, decision making, I'll actually emphasize on that because everything under that falls under decision making, decision to do with accept or reject, invest or de-invest, decommission or right, risk management, protection of consumers, protection of property, total quality management, trade competitiveness, including the removal of technical barriers to trade, hazard identification, business development, process improvement, and to obtain information about a product to be inspected. Now, the marriage, I'm now a marriage officer to say how do we make a hand and glove arrangement in the context. Why maintenance? Why do we carry out maintenance? To have increased plant safety, reliability and availability, efficient environmental pollution control, and sustainability. I think we're talking about climate change issues. Controlling hazards in accident prevention. You can see the red and the green. They are meeting each other very well there on the left and right side. And product quality, efficient resource management utilities are big cost drivers in our production setup, especially the issue of maintenance, the energy, whether you're using solar, diesel to complement what the Nssa effort, statutory compliance. Now, there is this model, which is the continuous improvement model. That's my second model. This one is shorter, maybe 3 minutes or so. This is the inspection model, which was derived by or designed by an American physicist and statistician. It's called the continuous improvement loop by Walter. That is where Deming modified his PDCA a model. So basically we are saying the reason for inspection, copy and paste from a robust inspection protocol that I've identified. Then what you do, the output of an inspection is an inspection result. You analyze, including artificial intelligence for data analytics is very comprehensive. When you analyze, you then interpret, because artificial intelligence can have a decision support system that will influence decision. So when you then analyze, that becomes the input for your maintenance action. But the problem obtaining on the ground is that the reason why I said maintenance is part of the process. Point number one, the actions that are required, which are coming from the inspection, because the maintenance and the process and the service should be done at the same time. At times, maintenance is blamed when there is the issue is process related. It has got nothing to do with maintenance. Or at times, it's nothing to do with maintenance, but with service quality. So the analysis of the accident domino sequence in the context becomes the issue. Then we move on to whatever actions are being done, they should be now an appropriate or proportionate action, a program of action with scheduled responsibility and demonstration of competence. So the monitoring is like following through, not following up. So I will liken this model to the sewer system that we read in the morning. So it's a continuous flow, it's not a continual flow. It's like your water supply or the sewer system. So now I will say the sewer system has got a telltale manual. So if the sewer system is flowing, it means there are bottlenecks or pain points that are not being addressed adequately. If it flows, then we have an injury frequency rate of 5.6, 4.9. 4,000 people injured at work annually and 45 to 80 fatalities in a year. So I'll move on to, now this is now the inspection which is informing a maintenance decision. Now I have to go a bit technical. And this is not time, my time is limited, but I'll just cut on just a few technical issues. It's not much there after this. Right, we can see an accident, the 60% manufacturers that we were talking about. We have a mobile crane, an overhead crane. I just want to show the marriage. The law addresses these issues under Section 23 and 24 of Factories and Works General Regulations, which is RGN 263 of 1976. Then there is an inspection protocol. I want to demonstrate that interface. It's actually ASME B30.2 for overhead crane, ASME B30. You see, don't worry, it's a standard. I'm just saying there is the law and there is a standard. Then ASME B30.5 for mobile crane and ASME B30.3 for tower crane. So when this happens, is it maintenance? Is it process? Is it technology? Is it service? So when there is an abuse above the factor of safety, for example, our strings there, if we are to make a decision, that's ASME B30.26 and B30.9. Or ISO for those who use ISO 9927/1 for overhead, /2 for mobile, and /3. So all the decision that has to be made is replacement. Simple in the context for those that have failed. What happened, why, that's our job as practitioners. Then this pressure vessel, I just want to do a little bit to highlight this one. There is under Statutory Instrument 109 of 1990 from Section 206 to 218, similar with the boiler regulations RGN 279 of 1976 amended by Statutory Instrument 289 of 1982 and Statutory Instrument 27 of 2007. In Section 3 and Section 4 of boiler regulations and Section 3 of pressure vessel regulations, there we have PD 550 for pressure vessel, or SARS is 293. I know you know what I'm talking about for those who are practitioners. But if you look at that failure, the rupture, that is it's like a power plant rupture for a tube. We're talking of BS 3059, which is now EN 10028 oblique 2. I'm talking about the part 2. So when we do our inspections, we actually go into the erosion and corrosion prone areas. Basically, I'm saying from there, the responsible person then submits a repair proposal. For example, we are seeing a failure there. We are seeing a failure on the boiler there. So the standards, I'll highlight the regulation I've said. Section 16 is for the inspection of pressure vessels under RIGN 303 of 1976. Then Section 14 is for boiler inspection. That should be supported by NBIC 23, which is the National Board Inspection Code for in-service applications. I'm also talking to Nssa on this aspect. But for pressure vessels, you can use API 510 with this in-service model. But for manufacturing inspection, I mentioned PD 5500 and BS 2790 and BS 1113, which is now 2790 is 12953 and 12952. So basically, I'll just... Okay. Right, as I conclude, I've just 5 minutes. I'll just move to the examples where maintenance has been linked. Maintenance, according to the Sichuan-Lithuania Maintenance Improvement Project, they implemented the model I'm talking about and achieved similarly with the Ontario Power Generation. And in terms of inspection, there is Part A, Part B, Part C, but the Part A is the third party, second party, third party, and I have a disclaimer, you can read that later. Then I'll move on to the benefits of ISO, which is my objective number 3. It reduces uncertainties associated with the decision that affect the protection of human health and the environment, and it increases confidence that the results generated by the inspection body are accurate within acceptable limits for use in decision-making by the organization, regulatory, trusted, and stakeholders. And in conclusion, you can read the conclusion, then I'll just give one example as you are reading. I'm not going to say out the conclusion. You read, then I just step aside a little bit, then say, for example, I'll give an example. The inspector has power in terms of Section 14, I think, to fix your boiler pressure, for example. He can downgrade your boiler from 1,000 to 800, then you will be in a conflict. There will be an appeal or a complaint. To avoid that, I will just say the essence or the marriage between standards as I conclude is that, for example, how do you fix what is the basis? There is a formula in Section 3 of BS 2790 which says E equals to PRI over F times Z minus 0.5 P plus C. So we are all reading from the same book. Then PE is your minimum thickness of the shell. What is your P? Is the design pressure which you make the subject of formula. That's my conclusion. Then your RI is the internal radius of the shell. Your F is the design stress, which is law of E2 over 1,5, which is 0.2% proof stress. Then you have your RM, which is the room temperature tensile strength over 2,4. Your Z is your stress reduction factor. We are talking, which is 1. For class 2, it's 0.85. I conclude.
Zvarambwana board chairman is. Anti board chair vasumuka vakaramba naye. But thank you so much, Engineer Mangwa. Engineer Mangwa knew very well that he was talking to a listening class and listening delegates. Thank you so much. A round of applause for Engineer Mangwa. Please allow me at this point in time just to invite Engineer Josephat Bamare. I know we are behind schedule a little bit, but we are just going to have Engineer Bamare present for us And I'm not going to go through all his profile, but he is a dedicated mechanical engineer and a lecturer at Chinhoyi University of Technology with over 15 years of experience. I will not say much, Engineer Bamari, as he gets into his presentation. After this, we are going to have a brief presentation from Zimra. I know there are so many concerns coming from professionals, so you want to get ready for that. We have a brief presentation in terms of what is required for professionals to be in compliant with Zimra. So I'm not going to get into that at this point in time, just to allow Engineer Bamare to do his presentation, and then we get over with it.
Thanks. Good morning. Thank you, Nssa, for inviting us to this event. We're hopeful that we can all gain something out of it and go home knowing better formulas, isn't it? For how to avoid our boilers being downgraded. Is my presentation? Yes, thank you. Okay, so I wish to discuss issues that have been continuously mentioned here by many presenters, issues that are commonly discussed in your workplaces, by your SHE practitioners, by your top management, when they speak of safety and how we are supposed to work safely to enhance operational efficiency. For the bulk of the time, for the bulk of the interactions that we have seen in industry, there is this introduction of policies, introduction of standards, introduction of systems that are placed on top of our operational activities. And we are told, we're reminded consistently that we must enhance our operational activities by implementing this additional layer of safety. And that's what it looks like. It will look like an okay. Right. So it'll look like it's an addition of a layer of safety upon our operational activities. So the question then becomes, do we have a relationship between safety and productivity which is conflicting? Do we have safety being an obstacle to us enhancing our operational efficiency? Do we have challenges that are emanating from safety measures, from Nssa regulations, from stipulations coming from ISO standards, and from all of the new things that have been added to our workflow that are conflicting with our productivity? And this question has been posed by many researchers across the world in many industries, and some of us struggle with these in our own workplaces. And most of the times we actually have to call the guys from SHE to come and explain, even though we expect safety to be a part of every person's responsibility. So some studies suggest that safety will enhance productivity, while others have actually come across a situation where safety introduces bottlenecks, it introduces delays in operations. And these conflicting results, all of the activities that are being observed across the globe, they show that there is this misunderstanding of what exactly safety and how exactly safety and operational efficiency are supposed to interact. Like, how do they go hand in hand? What is involved exactly? And the common perception or misconception is that there has to be a trade-off. You have to balance your safety regulations in all your activities, whether they're your lockout or your pre-activity risk assessments, or they're your re-entry wait times into a mine. You have to balance those with how much you want to produce, how much you want to be profitable. And this situation, it raises the question that are we doing safety to disrupt productivity, or are we doing safety to enhance operational efficiency? So the
there is this conflict that we are seeing where safety then starts looking like a burden to operational activities. But is that the case? And for some of us, I know there are a lot of industry leaders. When you experience a situation where safety is significantly disrupting production, how are you handling it? Are you addressing it as something which has to do with operations, or is it something that has to do with the SHE department? So the reality comes out from why this conflict exists. The conflict itself is coming out from an issue of compliance versus culture. We are seeing a situation where there are a lot of companies that are compliant to what Nssa prescribes, compliant to what SARS tells us. But in actuality, this is an additional management step that they are clearing out from their workflow so that they are compliant. We have situations where you would find internal auditors rummaging through the system and putting papers in place so that when the NASA people come or when the ISO people come, we are found to be compliant. But then, is that exactly how it is supposed to be done? Some believe that small companies try and avoid penalties and therefore they follow safety out of attrition. Some believe that companies that are big enough to actually implement safety protocols with enough resources have been performing well. But then if you look at the 2015 Dieselgate scandal from VW, you'll find that these big companies, whether their engineering practices are managing to keep up with the safety standards that are there or not, they will still fail to achieve some of the things that are required, and as a result, try and be compliant in any way that they feel is necessary. And in the case of Dieselgate, they installed some appliances to try and defeat the purpose of the inspection, which was to limit the harm, and instead went for the compliance, which was to ensure that their emissions were below the thresholds. And if you look at the Grenfell Tower in the UK in 2017, it was more or less an issue of the same challenges, where the contractors that were building the tower, they decided to use flammable cladding in the building. And when the fire broke out, that flammable cladding made it very difficult to rescue people, and a number of fatalities were incurred. And the Boeing 737 MAX crisis of 2018 to 2019 is another good example, where because there had so much pressure from a competitor, they decided to downplay safety regulations. Now, all of these, including the Facebook Cambridge Analytica data scandal, they show big companies that have the resources, that speak of compliance, that speak of safety, but then they have this behavior that they're showing which goes against safety. So why does the conflict exist between safety and operational efficiency? Well, the one thing that I can think of is culture. And culture where you find people accepting these practices. If you look at the VW Dieselgate scandal, the practice would have been handed down from top management. It cannot just be some engineer who's in a workshop somewhere who decides to install these devices to defeat the inspection, but it will be top management who would have okayed, because they want to avoid being non-compliant. Now, this culture, what does it speak of? What exactly are we talking about? We're talking about a culture where we are taking safety as part of our workflow, where safety is embedded. And I have noticed a lot of presenters have been speaking of seamless integration of safety into workflow. And I want to give a simple example that speaks of culture, because culture will become a very important part of this presentation. So growing up, I have an older sister. She got married quite early when I was still young, so just us boys remained, and as a result, we took care of all the chores. And in taking care of the chores, you have to cook, you have to clean, and you have to organize. Now, these are all workflows, and for a lot of us, these are separate workflows. When we were being taught how to cook, we were always questioned by my mother. You've cleaned out, you've just used the board to cut your vegetables, and you're waiting for your meat to boil. Why not clean the board while you're waiting for these things? Why not do it while you're also cooking? So while you're cooking, you'll then take the board, cut your vegetables, and when you finish cutting them and you place them aside, you clean the board as you are cooking other things, and you're waiting during that idle time. Can you remove it from your workplace once you're finished with it? And along with the knife, just clean it and remove it. The same applies for when you're cooking your sadza. After you finish using the cooking stick, you ask, oh, why are you putting it in the sink? In the morning, it'll be hard and dry, and it'll be difficult to clean it. Clean it now. Can you just do it right now while you're still cooking, just after you finish? So you'll take your cooking stick and then you'll go and you'll clean it while you've just finished using it, and you put everything away. And that created a safe working place. You'll not have any clutter, you'll not have any dirt, you'll not have any grease. You'll clean everything as you are cooking. And that became part of a culture. It became part of how we would cook in the kitchen. So the kitchen was always clean. But then, if you look at it from a workflow perspective, there are a number of people who will then first cook and put the dishes in the sink, and then we'll all go and eat, and afterwards someone will come to the kitchen and they will then clean the dishes. Those are two separate workflows, one being done for cleanliness and safety, while the other is being done for the production of the food. But then if the two are blended together, if the two are working in unison, then that becomes a seamless integration of your safety, your cleanliness into your workflow, which is your cooking, your production. So the issue of culture can be seen in a number of aspects that we deal with in our workflow. We'll find that because we are borrowing ideas from across the borders, we're borrowing from Japan, we're borrowing from America, the ISO standards, the TQM, the TPM, we have a number of things that we bring and they form these layers. In this particular case, when we're looking at safety measures that can potentially slow down or reduce productivity, where we see that the lockout procedure can have us waiting and having us slowing down the process because we have a bureaucratic chain that has to be followed. We have a bureaucratic chain that needs us to rush to this manager and to that engineer to get the signatures done. And that in itself brings us conflict in enhancing our productivity because time will be ticking. And there are situations where we'll find that the engineer on site will tell you, go ahead, do the job, we'll do the paperwork later. And that in itself is a violation of the compliance requirements, and it does not fall within the culture of doing work safely, but then it is being done because we need to enhance productivity. So you'll find that even if it is very necessary, there would be issues that will then come in to push productivity into, but then it's not exactly enhancing safety. We also have a situation where during rigging operations, you have to clear out from underneath the rigging material, the rigging equipment, because it is unsafe to work underneath it and it will delay operations. And you're trying to find ways of ensuring that your operations can continue and you can be productive. So for a lot of companies that look into it and try and enhance their operational efficiency, they try to restructure workflows and to schedule rigging activities during breaks so that you do not interrupt actual productivity. But then in most cases, when these breakdowns occur and rigging is required, it will not be during a break, which speaks to the issue of maintenance, which was presented before us, where you are saying that you must be proactive. And we also have mobile lights equipment where we are trying to use mobile equipment underground, and if one of the lights breaks, if it blows out, you cannot see the vehicle, and that becomes an unsafe environment. And for some companies, they have to wait for the electrician to come. They have to wait for the maintenance guys to come and to fix the mobile equipment. But then we've seen that from TPM, from Total Productive Management, if you train your operator, if it is within the operator, if it is part of his workflow to always be caring for his equipment, then he can also repair these minor fixes. But then the challenge that comes with these suggestions, the solutions that we're seeing, or these challenges that we're facing, is that you have to borrow things from across the borders. And while we're talking about borrowing, we have to look at where we're borrowing from. And the one thing that we see which is quite prominent is we're borrowing from other cultures, where they do things in a different way, where they operate from a different perspective. And I went to Attachment, was part of the Unilever family back in 2006, and we were implementing Total Productive Management back then. And I know a lot of companies in Zimbabwe implemented Total Productive Management. And you'll find that the culture behind Total Productive Management stems from a hierarchy of seniority in the Japanese culture. That's different from how we do things here. The whole concept of how they manage to enhance productivity through TPM is very different from how we operate in our country. So that's another layer that we were also borrowing from outside and adding to our operations in our workflows. So my suggestion and my observation was, when we look at the ISO standards, when we look at all of the SARS requirements and the quality standards that we import from outside and the safety requirements that we import from outside, we would benefit more from analyzing how this standard and how that regulation integrates with our own culture. In the same way that I learned from my mother, in the same way that I know countless of us have learned from our elders, in our own culture, in our own Zimbabwean culture, there is a lot that we can learn and implement, so that when a worker who's coming from Manicaland or coming from Hurungwe comes to work here in Masvingo, they will see things that they are familiar with. They will see things that they do naturally. And that way we can then integrate our workflow with all the safety requirements that our regulators give us. So if we were to look at safety as a bureaucratic burden, if we were to look at safety as an additional layer, we would then need to look at how we can streamline all of these regulations and rules that we're importing in order for them to fit into our culture. And we can look at the pre-task risk assessment checks that are carried out in industries before we carry out a task. And we can look at the permit to work approval systems, and we can also look at the excessive incident reporting structures that are found in some systems. When I went for my training after graduating, we had a system that generated over 250 work orders in a day for maintenance inspections. And this was all paperwork we were placing on artisans to then fill out at the end of the day. And they did not want to fill it out. And I know a number of companies face this challenge, and that challenge can be addressed by integrating technology, as has been alluded by other presenters, into our workflow, so that we can eliminate some of these papers that we need to then fill out at the end of the day. And by so doing, we reduce the time spent on carrying out safety activities, and instead change the way that we do our work so that safety activities are then a part of our culture, a part of our workflow. When we look at safety induction redundancies, we then need to look at how we train our people. And this also comes back to us as educators in the tertiary institutions. Our students and our products most of them meet SOPs and standards and regulations in industry. They start seeing them there. But then if we share the responsibility and if we integrate operations from Nssa into education, we can then take some of the training and put it into our classrooms. And then when you carry out your safety induction, it can then be tailor-made to the people that you are addressing. So instead of teaching everyone the same things, you then tailor-make it to what they are lacking. So these are some of the suggestions that can also be integrated into trying to streamline bureaucratic burden of safety. Then there's an aspect of companies that try to ensure that they are compliant always. What is it about their behavior which pushes them to try and be compliant instead of treating it as a culture? Well, this speaks more to Nssa, where we want them to understand. We want them, the industries, to understand that Nssa is not a rent-seeking organization. It's not a regulator which is seeking to punish people because they are not compliant. Nssa is trying to enhance safety in the workplace. And that is the spirit with which Nssa tries to push their agenda. But if our industries, our small industries and our emerging industries do not understand this, then they try and run away from it and try and be compliant. They treat it as an additional step. The one thing that speaks out the most to these activities is where you find that a company has one thing written on paper and it does something else entirely on the ground. And I think education will then be key in trying to enhance understanding of how Nssa enhances safety, so that we can work hand in hand, companies can work hand in hand with Nssa. And we also implore Nssa to approach these companies and help them to understand, help them to enhance their systems and eliminate risks in their organizations. So our solution in what I'm trying to deliver is that there is a serious need to embed safety into work processes. And this has to come from how we design our work processes, and it has to come from how we design our compliance regulations. Everything that we try and implore on people has to be designed from a human factors and ergonomics perspective, from a work study perspective, where we're looking at how we do things, how our culture handles things, and how we can implement this into our activities in industry. Okay. So if we look at safety as a hurdle, it becomes a barrier to productivity. But if it is in how we do things, it then becomes an enabler of operational efficiency. And this is something that has to be ingrained in our training throughout, whether it be from a young age, whether you're still in your household or you are in industry. One question that I posed to my colleagues as we were coming over for this conference was if anyone could understand, if anyone could appreciate why our artisanal miners, the small-scale miners, why they choose to blast the pillars that are actually upholding the ceiling in the shafts that they enter into. You'll find that there are cases like the El Dorado mine collapse back in 2020, I think, where miners were blasting the pillars that are supporting the roof because they felt that the gold was also in those pillars. That behavior is an aspect of culture, and our culture is changing. We're borrowing things from outside, and our culture is changing. We're losing focus of where we came from, and as our culture changes, our behavior changes, and from that change in behavior, unsafe practices also start emerging. So the actionable framework that we suggest would be to integrate objectives that allow safety and productivity and sustainability to support each other, to understand the human perspective, the psychological perspective, the cultural perspective of how safety integrates into our workflow. And Only then can we actually start talking of seamless integration between safety and productivity. All right, thank you. I think we can discuss any aspects that you feel are pertinent to understanding this concept. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Engineer Josephat Bamare. The issue of safety and culture, compliance versus culture. Thank you so much for that presentation. Please allow me at this point in time to go through to Zimra, Mr. Godfrey Ziwumburu, professionals registrations and tax obligations. We will then have the questions and the discussions after his presentation. So let's clap hands for him. The background to this presentation is that we also want to be educated in terms of what Zimra is trying to do and what are the procedures in terms of the professional registrations. It's a very small presentation just to guide us. And Mr. Ziwumburu here will do justice to the presentation. Welcome, sir. All right. This is forward. This is back.
Good afternoon. Yes, Ziwumburu, as has been said, is my name. I will be taking you through the Zimra presentation in connection with the professional tax obligations. I will start my presentation by introducing Zimra to you. Right, Zimra is the responsible authority created by government to collect revenue for the state. I'm sure you are aware, as the citizens of the country, you want to see your roads in good shape, you want to see your hospitals functioning, you want to see your civil servants getting paid and all other activities for the government. So this is the organization that does the collection of the revenue for the state. We derive our mandate from the Revenue Authority Act, Chapter 2311, and our mandate is to facilitate trade, to collect revenue, to protect civil society, and to advise government on fiscal matters. That's our mandate. We use the listed acts, Income Tax Act, Value Added Tax Act, Capital Gains Tax Act, and Customs and Excise Act in performance of our duties. Right, tax compliance. What we expect you as citizens of the country is to register with the Zimra. That's number one. Number two, to correctly calculate tax payable, to submit returns on or before the due date. That's what we expect as well. To lodge payments on or before the due date. Because some of us, we normally submit returns but forget to pay the tax due. So we expect the return and the tax to come together. Then you have got a challenge. If you have a challenge in getting the revenue, I mean the amount to pay, you approach Zimra to come and I mean, to be able to be given a chance to pay later. But the return will then be submitted on due date. Then to keep records, then to have compliance issues. Right. Benefits of complying with ZIMRA. You will be issued with a valid tax clearance. Sure, we give you a tax clearance. Then you are also going to get equal opportunities. All right, sorry about that. Yeah. Sorry, I was saying you get equal opportunities in terms of tender selection because you will be having a valid tax clearance. So that's the benefit. You cut costs that would then arise for in instances of penalties, interest, and prosecution and legal costs. Because we do prosecute for people who will not submit returns on time. Then no withholding tax is withheld when transacting. Because when you are transacting, if you don't have a valid tax clearance, what we normally do is the service provider will withhold 30% of the tax from the total invoice value. So that will then inconvenience you. Then tax types, we have got income tax, pay as you earn, value added tax, capital gains tax, then withholding tax on tenders. Then we come to you now, self-employed professionals. Finance Act number 2 of 2024 Finance Act number 2 of 2024 indicated that with effect from 1 January 2025, the self-employed professionals listed who used to pay presumptive tax are now required to also account for provisional tax, what we call QPDs, or quarterly payment dates, as they are now on self-assessment, unless if they are on final deduction system. So those who are on final deduction system are those who are purely employed by an organization. So they do pay their pay as you earn. There's no any other thing which they are supposed to do except to apply for tax clearance to us, then we give them. Then those who are self-employed, those who are in trade, they will then be required to register with the ZIMRA and get a TIN, and then they are supposed to be paying their tax, the income tax. That's where I am now. Income tax is charged in terms of Section 6 of the Income Tax Act, Chapter 2306, and it is charged at 25% and 3% as levy. So what are we saying there? The 25% is charged on profit, not on gross amount. That's what we are saying there. Then on top of that, we then charge the 3% as levy. Then now, what you will then be expected is to pay the provisional QPDs, and you submit your provisional return. The provisional QPDs, what we are saying here is, for example, we are in year 2025. You estimate your profits for the year. Then you charge the 25% plus 3% as levy. Then you are then required to submit a provisional return on the estimates. Then after you have done that, you are expected to pay your first QPD due on the 21st of March. Then second QPD 25 June, third QPD 25 September, then fourth QPD 20 December. This is based on the percentages of the total tax calculated. 10% first, 25% second, then third, 30%, 35% of the same tax. But if you have got some adjustment to make on the estimate which we have done, you are expected to also adjust the tax there. Then you are required to do an annual return at the end of the year now, which is due 30 April for the whole year. Then you are also supposed to now to calculate the tax due. Then you compare with what you had estimated for the same year. Then if there is a difference, you pay the difference. If there is, over, so I'm saying over, you pay, shortfall, you pay the difference. Then if there is over, that amount will then be carried over to the next year. Then, since I don't have time, I'm jumping some of the things. Then you then read from the presentation. I'm no longer going to talk about all this because he's saying I don't have time. Then we come on to this important one, the issuance of tax clearance for professionals. Professionals in trade, professionals conducting business are required to register for tax and apply for tax clearance via terms. So this one you apply tax clearance like any other businessman. When all your obligations are in order with ZIMRA, the tax clearance will come out and you get your tax clearance, valid tax clearance. Then for registration purposes, if the tax clearance is over 30 days, the tax clearance which you have applied via terms, if it is over 30 days, you are required to do a manual application, then we give you a confirmation letter. That's the one which you are going to use for registration purposes. Then for employees, those who are purely on FDS, they are required, the employees who are professionals must complete the manual application form. Employers with multiple professionals needing clearance letters must submit a list of all employees applying for tax clearance, accompanied by covering letter and individual application forms for all the employees. Then you will then check for each employee, like you can submit things like pay slip, your ID, we need it, covering letter, as has been said. Then, after that, we'll issue a manual tax clearance, which you will then use for registration purposes. That's what we will then do. Then, upon approval, you can then be licensed by the bodies. So, thank you very much for what I've done. Thank you.
You can have your. Thank you, Mr. Zumburu. Another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. At this point in time, I will ask for our roving mics. Can we have roving mics going about? Do we have any questions? I also need some mics here in the front as well. How many mics do we have? 2. I need 1 here for responses. Or maybe you can utilize those ones, and then once we have, we are going to limit our questions. We are not going to get all the questions probably answered, but we'll limit. Let's start with 4 questions. Do we have any questions from the delegates? You can kindly raise your hand. There is a hand raised here. Yes. Okay. So you can also give the gentleman seated there another mic as well. Please go ahead with your question.
Thank you. Mine is a challenge to the engineers in this room. I want to make reference to an example that was mentioned by the third presenter, which was in line with the compliance without culture, with specific mention of the Grenfell Tower. I'm made to understand that following that accident, there were several measures that were put in place by the regulators within that geographical territory. You would find that these are available on the public platform, unlike locally where it's difficult for you to get information pertaining to accidents that are happening in the industry, which may be useful for maybe corrective actions in various sectors. Following these corrections, some of which rather were more of legislative, were put into place soon after that accident. My challenge is, looking at this scenario and our scenario, are we in a position to say, looking at the current performance of the industry today, our instruments that are in place, are they capable enough to address the issues that we are currently facing? And should there be growth within this industry, these same instruments able to adapt or be able to sustain this growth? Or we have a situation where we are simply watching a time bomb, waiting for the signal, which is its explosion, for us to then start making the corrective actions.
Thank you for that question. I think, is it directed to the presenters or the group? All right, that's fine. Thank you. Can we have another question? Any other questions? Again, just raise your hand and then the mic will locate you.
All right, thank you very much. I wanted to ask in terms of safety. I think one of the speakers spoke about how important safety is. So my question was on, are there any legal actions that are taken on the owners of the company, or is just a fine that's done to the company, but then probably the owners of the company are not held responsible, just besides the fine, because the company can just pay the fine and then still continue with their practices. So is there any legal action that can be taken against the company besides just fine, probably having a jail term or something like that, so that we put across the importance of safety in the organization? And then my second question was on when NASA does inspections to the organizations, do they do random checks whereby they can just walk in and say, hey, I'm from NASA, I just want to see if you are compliant and you are following the safety guidelines? Or they tell the company that we're going to come on such a date, so that the company actually prepares for them, so there's some element of bias, because if my employees didn't have PPE, I would just, when the NASA guys tell us that they're coming through, I will ensure that everything is in place. But before the NASA guys came through, maybe the employees were working without PPE or something like that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Another, okay, engineer, you can
Okay,
go
mine
ahead.
is directed to Engineer Bamare. Currently, we are moving with the mantra, Zimbabwe is open for business. And how best as the local engineers balance the two? Because sometimes some of the investors, they come to invest, but in a way, bypassing some of the safety regulations. So as engineers, how best can we balance the two? That this investor is operating in this way, which is affecting safety, but is being productive. Maybe as engineers, how can we address that challenge?
All right, thank you for that, Engineer Bamare. I think you got that question. It was directed to you. Do we have the last question? The last question? Has the mic located another person? All right. Allow me to ask Engineer Bamare to respond to the question that has been raised. And we can also respond, I think, as the regulator, we will also respond to the questions that were raised as well.
Thank you both for the questions. I'll start with his comment. If I got it correctly, you're asking if, as a nation, we are prepared to be transparent in the accidents that are occurring in our country and the solutions that are coming out thereof from those incidents. I will direct this one to our regulator to help us. But I will try and tie in your question with the second question, which was directed at me, because it kind of ties in. They're kind of related. I think your question was in the face of incoming investment from outside. We have people, we have investors, we have producers that have different cultural backgrounds, that have different ways of doing things, and they have different priorities. And how are we engineers then prepared to tackle the challenges that come with producers that are trying to bypass the same culture we're trying to invest in our people, in our country? Again, I think the regulator will assist us. My comment on it stems from the comments that the presentation that I made. When we look at our way of doing things as Zimbabweans, I mean, if you look at it from a tourism perspective, Zimbabweans are viewed as being very welcoming people. We are very tolerant and we are very accepting of other people. But at the same time, I want to believe that if we then dig deeper into our culture, we have measures in place to protect our children from people who come to visit our homes, and we have ways of addressing any challenges that will be presented by Uncle Joe or presented by a visitor who wants to overstay their welcome. And I think one of my suggestions was to try and establish like a safety integration framework that is driven or that is embedded in that culture. If we then take aspects of how we deal with things as Zimbabweans in our culture, in addressing conflict, in addressing challenges, then we are able to address the issues that affect us through these visitors that come. I know that through our chiefs and through our legislative system, we have ways of avoiding incidents such as the shooting of mine workers by foreigners or farm workers by foreigners that have come in because there's a conflict of sorts. My thinking is that if we then have these safety systems designed from our culture, it becomes easier. It becomes something that is seamless. And the same applies to transparency. Unfortunately, our culture is not a very transparent culture. We don't call out our elders in front of young kids. But then if we take that same aspect and we try and make it so that we trickle down the lessons to our young children, because that's what we do in our culture, I'm sure we can actually be in a position to learn from the mistakes that would have happened, because so and so, who's an elder, has made a certain mistake in this and that company. So it all comes back to the establishment of solutions that are developed by us as Zimbabwe, instead of solutions that are imported. Because if you want to be antagonistic and take the approach of Europeans, where we confront each other, I'm sure you will face a lot of attrition and you will not get the results you're looking for. That's my thinking. But I think the regulator might be more informed on how we handle such issues. Thank you.
Let's go for investment.
Sorry?
For investment, thank you. No, that's fine. All right, let me address, I think, the issue that has been raised by Engineer Bamare. I think sometime in 2018, if you were following the statistics, Zimbabwe was ranked number 155 out of 190 in terms of ease of doing business in the world. And I remember then there was a committee that was set up to try and encourage investors to do business in Zimbabwe. And one of the things that I remember as Nssa that we were tasked with was to sit in a committee that was being chaired by the CGU. And what was involved there was the one-stop shop. So the one-stop shop, I think some of you understand and appreciate. We have got various parastatals that goes and sit under a local authority in terms of the approval of plans. By then, we were told that it would take around 355 days for a company from registration to processing or to start doing business in Zimbabwe. And we were told that in somewhere in Rwanda, that process could be done in a matter of less than a week or a week thereabout. So we were challenged to say, what is the challenge with Nssa when you are approving plans for a company that is coming into Zimbabwe? What is the challenge with, say, for example, local authority in this context, the city of Harare? What is the problem with EMA when you are doing your environmental impact assessments? What is the challenge with RPAZ if they are involved, the Radiation Protection Authority of Zimbabwe? And we for us, we said that we can approve a plan in less than 7 days. And this is what we have also been doing. And fast track to 2020, you will find that we improved by 15 counts. We then moved to number 140 out of 190. So that was a positive step in terms of trying to manage or assist in terms of ease of doing business. And it did not stop there. We also have ZIA, Zimbabwe Investments Authority, whereas Nssa, we also have a point person who actually sits there. I think it's something that we have been doing since its inception. So whenever there are issues to do with Nssa, it might be contributions, collections, compliance, it might be issues to do with factories, registration, etc. We also have a point person who assists. So that's what I can comment in terms of the investments for new investors that will be coming into Zimbabwe. But let me also speak to the issue of the question that was asked to say, do we do unannounced or announced factory inspections? I think I got two questions. So we have got unannounced factory inspections or unannounced inspections. By unannounced inspections, what we are simply saying is we can go to any company without announcing that we are coming. We can do what we call night inspections. We don't need to announce. We just appear. and then we can carry out our inspections. It's allowed by the legislation, and we have got IDs that we have issued to our officers to say if there are issues with a certain company and you suspect that they may be hiding certain things, or they might collude maybe to hide certain information, you are allowed to go and carry an unannounced inspection. But we also have announced inspections, and these ones mainly for those that deal with boilers, elevators, escalators. You will find that we actually write to a company to say we will be coming to carry out an inspection on this day, and they have to prepare. On that particular instance, you don't want to go to a company where they are using the facility or the boiler that they will be using, because in some cases it becomes dangerous to inspect it. Hot surfaces, maybe they are not prepared, they don't have the tools and the equipment, so it's both ways. But I would then say most of our factory inspections, they are unannounced inspections. And then in terms of fines, we are using the Factories and Works Act, Chapter 14.08 of 2002. And under that act, currently we do not have a schedule of fines. What we simply do is, if there is a violation, we can give what we call improvement notices. What do we call by improvement notices? So if we see that there is a violation, for example, there is an unguarded part of a machine, what we simply do is we write a notice to say improve on this particular machine. And then we are going to come back, say after, the law actually prescribes the number of days. So it says 14 working days. So the inspector will then come back 14 working days after they've done their inspection. But there are cases where the inspector may not need to wait for the 14 days. There is imminent danger. And where there is imminent danger, an inspector can prohibit the works. So they are allowed by the legislation to stop the works. And in that instant, we issue what we call a prohibition notice. And a prohibition notice is issued to say this particular section has been prohibited from operating. And we can also then communicate according to our law, we can communicate with the NPA, National Prosecution Authority, to prosecute the offenders. So it's allowed under the current act. But we have challenges that we have also seen according to the current existing legislation. This is why you have heard so many times about the OSH bill. I know most of you have heard about the OSH bill. You can confirm. It is a bill that is being proposed, and we are hopeful that anytime soon it will be passed in Parliament, where we are saying we also want to do what Emma is doing, what Mr. Zumburu was talking about, issuing fines. Emma can issue spot fines. Zimra can also issue fines. So we have said as Nssa, according to the Factories and Works Act, we also want to issue fines. So currently we are not issuing fines, but we are we issue prohibition notices and improvement notices, and then we can take companies to court. I don't think there is. I think all the questions have been answered. Is it? We are late for lunch. I think allow me to thank the presenters here. A round of applause to the gentlemen that have done the presentations. After lunch, we are going to have a session on OSH induction of Dinson Iron and Steel. Dinson Iron and Steel is the company that we will be visiting, and we have a 10-minute presentation by Engineer Pardon Kufakuneso. He's going just to take us through in terms of the expectations when we go to the plant. So please, let's come. There are also requirements in terms of the PPE that is required when we visit Dinson Iron and Steel. And let me just encourage as well our delegates to register in terms of the companies that you would want to visit. And then after the presentation, we will then announce how we will be moving. At this point in time, if you allow me to pray for our food, and then we can go for lunch. Can we bow our heads? Our Father, we thank you for this time. We thank you for the time that we are going to be consuming the food. Father, may you bless the food and bless the hands that have cooked. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. We are dismissed for lunch.